everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I've got something really interesting today. Well, I'm interested in it and I hope you will be. You'd be surprised to hear that it's yet another preamp, and you'll be even more surprised to hear that it's based on the 3850 Clone. I know that could be a bit boring, but I promise you this won't be. What it is, in fact, has been reviewed by 2 or 3 other people on YouTube. It's their reviews that have kind of made me decide to fork out with my own money. As per usual, I'm not sponsored. I've had to sell a kidney in order to pay for this. Just for you guys. Anyway, that's enough silliness for one day. The reason I've decided to review this is because, as many of you know, my reviews are a little bit different insofar as I test them. Yeah, I really do. The reviews that I've seen so far, 1 or 2 have actually taken the lid off it and pointed to a few components, but it's basically people that have swallowed the dictionary and tell you the superlatives of the sound glistening in the clouds and all that sort of thing. But I know you're on this channel because you know I don't do that. I'm going to tell you towards the end how it does sound, but I'm going to sum it up in one sentence. And there's also, I should say, a rather surprise ending to this video. So please watch it all the way through and don't skip to the end to see what I'm talking about. But it will come as a bit of surprise. Let's have a look at the product. The lid is slightly lopsided because you'll be surprised to hear I've been inside. And it's such a tight fit that if I try and take the cover or push the cover back on again, I can't get it off because the tolerances are a little on the tight side. Right, before we go inside, let's have a look at it cosmetically, and I'll show you a few things. Now, like most mass-produced, relatively low-cost items, this is not without its flaws. The first one is at least easy to fix, but is nevertheless irritating, and it's just attention to detail. Now you can see here, this is the volume control knob, and I've chosen this angle because you can see that it's actually pushed in too far, and this one is extreme. There's a lip on there, and all it is there's a little grub screw in here which you can see. All that needs to happen is you undo that and pull the knob slightly so the flange is flush, which I haven't done because I wanted you to see it. A very minor point, but nevertheless an irritating thing, and it's just lack of attention to detail. The next one is the display. I'm going to power it up in a minute so you can see what I mean, but on here it does say the product name, and you can actually see it on the camera better than you can in real life. Here you've got input 1, 2 and 3 with a corresponding LED. Now this panel doesn't light up, so you never see the display any clearer or brighter than you do now. And I've lit this in such a way that the camera does show what is on there. So let's put some power on it and see how it looks. Again, it doesn't show up that well on the camera, but that is a blue LED. And again, it doesn't really look like that in real life. That really does look blue, and it's very dull. If I change the input, you can see the LED lighting up in the appropriate position. But it's still, bearing in mind, there's a lot of light in this room, basically so you can see what I'm doing. But in the lounge, there's just subdued light and a table light, and all of this isn't visible at all. And there's no real way of changing that. Let's have a look around the back. These are the three inputs, A, B and C, and this is the output. It's only unbalanced, and to the left is an IEC socket with a fuse. Perfect. Right, let's go back and have a look at this. Now, initially, I thought these were rather good sockets. They've got a long flange on them, which means that certain phono plugs will fit really nicely and make a good earth connection. The issue I've found with them is they are very variable, and I don't mean just on this product, because I've used these sockets before, and whilst they are not the cheap and very nasty ones that are so slack, the problem is the tolerance on the shaft, if you like, is quite variable. So I've got just a random plug here, which is a medium quality lead, and if I see, that goes in and is pleasantly tight. That one is much looser, and this one I physically can't press that phono socket, that plug into that socket. And I don't know about this one. That one's fine, you can see, perfect. But this one, I really can't. I could force it, I suppose. That one's okay. That one's okay. That's another tight one. See, it's loose, but it's tight, if that makes sense. Now, when I first received this, for some reason, I just decided to shake the box. And this is what I heard. Listen to this. I thought, what the hell? Initially, the first thing I wanted to do, of course, was take the lid off the box, for obvious reasons that you think, well, has it been damaged in transit? So that was my immediate horror. But this is what's rattling. Look at this. This is the transformer, which we'll talk about presently. As you can see, everything about this transformer is loose. Now, it's not that something's not tightened up or something like that. It is just inherently the way it is. And you can get round this by lodging a toothpick or something in there. I have to say that it has no detrimental effect on its operation. It's just, it looks like it's a wonderful transformer. Theoretically it is. It has a low magnetic field. In this particular product, it is very overkill. It simply does not need, you do not need such an expensive transformer. Because at the end of the day, all this transformer has to do is convert your mains input, 240 volts or 120, whatever it is, to a dual 18 volts output, which is what it feeds just here. I'm sure you're going to think this is rubbish, and I can see some comments already, but that is as good and will do the job. Now, that's not strictly true. You would need two of these to do the job of that, and that's only because there are two separate windings on here. One of them feeds the preamp and the other one feeds the input circuitry and the relays, which are sort of just out of sight, but we'll talk about that presently. Right, well, I can hear that and I'm sitting probably 2 feet away from it. Let's have a quick look at the power supply section. Just off camera is the input, and here are the rectifier diodes, and they've got capacitors across them. All the right things, can't fault that at all. These are Nichicon capacitors, and I can't actually read the value other than to say they're 50 volt capacitors, which is a little bit overkill. I suspect they are very high capacitance. Again, not strictly required. I know there's so many good folks out there that think if you put 1,000,000 microfarad on a power supply, it will be better. Well, that could well be true in a power amplifier. But in a preamp like this, where the current draw is about 15 milliamps, you really do not need all this capacitance. But it's there, and on paper it's better. So not going to knock that. This supply, this side of the board are the peripheral components for the regulators which are on here. Nice big heat sinks, over big because the current draw is so small. These you can just feel the temperature is just above ambient. Again, overkill, but better than underkill. Is that even a word? Anyway, the strange thing about these are they are variable regulators. They are in fact LM317 and the opposite number which escapes me at the moment, but they're a complementary pair. One is for the negative and one is for the positive supply. That in itself is not a bad thing. It allows you to set the output voltage exactly, which again, it isn't that critical on this particular circuit, but it's there. Here's the odd thing. There is no preset potentiometer, so the resistance, or I should say the output voltage, is set by resistors. I don't see the point of having a variable voltage regulator when you can't alter it. So if it is slightly out, then it is slightly out. But as that doesn't matter anyway in this circuit, you can see where I'm going with this. It's all very good, but unnecessarily so. Here we see the input board, which is basically the backside of the phonos in and out, and so you don't have huge long leads running backwards and forwards. It's controlled by a relay for each channel, which in turn is controlled by the switch. I don't know why I'm doing that because you can't see it, but you know what a switch looks like. And so all these cables that run down the side, which I can show you if we zoom out a little bit, these cables only have one screen lead, which is whichever one of these relays selects the input, it feeds it down this and it goes straight to the volume pot on the front panel. You'll be very pleased to know it's an Alps. So there's the single screen lead coming up from the back panel, and it goes onto the board, through the volume pot and out here. Unscreened leads, but bearing in mind that the whole thing is a metal box and there's no hum pickup from these leads, which go straight to the input of the board. This is the little PCB that has the 3 LEDs with a common resistor which light up input you select. Ironically, I'm not going to say much about this board at all because I've reviewed it in various incarnations a number of times, and if you'd like to look back through some of my back catalogue, I basically like this board, or various incarnations of it. It uses a discrete IC, because if you think about a line running down here, left channel, right channel. Clearly, if you're going to do that, you have to have a discrete IC, and there's only a single IC in this particular package, and it's the NE5534. Contrary to what people think, it is not half of a 5532. It's very similar, but it is not the same. Other than it is beautifully built. I cannot fault the soldering. You can see here all the resistors are seated nicely. Everything about the board is as near perfect as you can get. I don't think you could build it personally any better than it is. All the transistors are the same level. In other words, it just looks good, and it does perform extremely well. The ICs are on sockets, so if you're one of these people with too much money and would like to spend another $150 on a discrete IC, well, good luck to you. If that's what you want to do and you've got the money, go ahead and do it. Please don't think it's going to sound any better, because it doesn't. Placebo effect. Before we start doing some tests on the bench, I'm going to take you into the lounge to show you something. What I'm going to show you may mean that you're going to have to drill a hole in the back panel of this preamp. It's not necessarily the preamp's fault, but I'm going to show you and demonstrate the issue that I have found. We're here in the lounge now, and this is my test setup for listening. This is my power amp that I built on the channel about 2 or 3 years ago, and is still in daily use. And one day I'm going to put the lid on it. The preamp is all powered up, switched on, and initially I'm just going to play you a few seconds of some YouTube friendly music, and then I'm going to show you the issue. You heard it play music, and now I've just switched off the music, and I'm going to turn the volume control gain on the preamp onto full with the same source as before. Listen. I'm going to show you now how to fix it. Gone. A bit of handheld camera now. All I've basically done is connected a crocodile clip to the earth of, or the chassis I should say, of the preamp, and if we follow the lead along, there is the DAC, and I have literally just connected to a wire to the screen of the box. That's not the phono, it's just the metal box. At this stage I don't really know what the cause of this is, but I should say that hum and noise are the scourge of any two pieces of equipment, and whilst there are sort of rules about what you should do, it can be one of the most difficult things to actually sort out. But I've solved it on this case, and it's the first time I've ever encountered any problem. As you would expect from such a preamp, the square waves are excellent. That looks pretty good, doesn't it? But that's 10 Hertz. And it's rolling off a little bit now, but if I tell you that's 2 Hertz, then I think when you compare it with the amplifier that I reviewed a couple of weeks ago, which looked like a donkey's backside, pretty good square waves. I won't bother with any more low frequencies, we'll go up to the high end now. Just as a reference, which I should have put on to start with, that's the standard 1 kilohertz. I haven't shown you any sine wave responses, but I have got the numbers to read to you because it's simply a sine wave. There's nothing to show on it, so I won't waste your time, but I have got some results for you. The gain is actually pretty high and the output is 8 volts RMS prior to clipping. Frequency response, half dB down at the low end, 3 hertz. You can't do better than that, can you? The high end is half a dB down at 40 kilohertz, which is a little low. If you want a 1 dB, if only I could speak. If you want a 1 dB down figure, 55 kilohertz, so not too shabby. And at the low end, it's hard to read because it's essentially more or less a DC amplifier. And bearing in mind at 2 hertz, I've put it at 1 dB down at 2 hertz, but the needle's going like that. I said I wasn't going to make a big deal of this, but you're bound to ask me how it sounds. I have to say, by and large, it is very detailed. The noise floor is fairly good, but not as good as ours, but that's because possibly the gain is very high. And that is something that the manufacturers should address, and it's only involves in putting a potentiometer, a preset pot in there, and then at least you would have that option, and the update would cost you $1, nothing. It at least gives you the opportunity, because I've said before many times, you always want the minimum amount of gain that you need. If you amplify something, the noise and potentially the distortion goes up as well. So if you can minimize the gain that you need, you are going to get, be it a very small difference, an improvement. And that's what hi-fi is all about, isn't it? Getting the best you can from a product. Likeable sound, full of detail, and I've listened to it now extensively for the last 5 or 6 days. The only comment I would really make negatively about it, I find it can be a little fatiguing at times. I've done reviews on the actual board for this several times, and I've said how it excels, but that leads us on to why we developed our own preamp. And it was simply that both Ron and myself independently said, it sounds great, but after a period of time, the sound is a little fatiguing and borders on being a little harsh at times. And that's as far as I'm going to go with the sound, but it's got extended bass, as you'd expect, and everything about it is reflected on what you've just seen on there. So it's a very fine preamp indeed. As I said, this leads into why we developed the preamp that we have and have reviewed extensively. The board's still available, by the way. What I'm going to do with this preamp, I'm going to remove the board and replace it with our own preamp board, which doesn't have the same fatiguing effect that this does. I'm going to do a follow-up video showing you how I do that, and of course I'm going to drill the hole in the back so I can add an earth terminal which I can link to the DAC. So watch out for that video. It will follow fairly soon, in probably 10 days to 2 weeks time. Thank you as usual for watching. I appreciate your comments. Do write and give your comments. Your opinion is as valuable as anybody's. So speak up or forever hold your peace. Take care. Bye bye for now.